Rebels toppled the Syrian government over the weekend. How Washington is responding to what the president calls a historic moment for the Syrian people. Plus, President-elect Donald Trump gave his first interview since the election with NBC News. A look at his plans for some of the country's top issues.
Good afternoon. We have one day, just one, of t-shirts and shorts weather before the coats are needed, and we'll talk about it all coming up in just a few minutes at First Warning Weather.
In-depth, investigative. This is KXAN News at Noon.
We are taking a live look over downtown Austin right now. Some gorgeous blue skies out there at the moment, and we are also dealing with some very warm weather today before another cold front moves into the area. Thanks for joining us this afternoon. I am Will Dupree, and we are here now with meteorologist Rich Siegel. And Rich, I'm looking at those temperatures back there. Hard to believe what we were experiencing just, this weekend.
Yesterday.
Right.
And Saturday. It never got out of the 40s on Saturday. We had that cloudy, rainy day, and then Sunday. Actually, I don't really know. I know it was cold yesterday, but I never got outdoors at all on Sunday. So
I did a little bit. It was a little bit warmer than Saturday, so that was nice. Okay. But it was very good to see the drizzle move on out for that sunshine again.
One day of heat, if you want to call it that, and then we go back into the chill. Let's go over and talk about these temperatures that Will is alluding to. We still have some 50s. I don't know if there's an issue with the instrumentation at Marble Falls and San Marcos, because I have to believe that we should be in the 60s at least in both locations, but the rest of these numbers are looking pretty good. 78 at Dripping Springs is one of our warmer temperatures. 76 at Blanco and also at Fredericksburg and up at Lampasas. I-35 Georgetown at 76, Camp Mabry at 71 in our eastern zone, 66 at Bastrop, and 73 at Cameron. Wind is coming out of the west to southwest. We've got that west wind in the hill country, southwest wind from I-35 eastward. This is a warming wind coming from both directions. We have some double-digit wind speeds out in the hill country with some gusts as high as 24 both at Craddock Field at Burnett, 24 at the Gillespie County Airport at Fredericksburg, and 23 at the airport at Llano, 16 for both Blanco and Mason, and ultimately, and also at Cameron. And ultimately, these gusts will start to increase as we get later on into the day. All right, we'll be in the low 70s, low to mid 70s at 1 o'clock. By 4 o'clock, we'll be in the low 80s, 5 o'clock temperature in the upper 70s, low 70s at 6 o'clock. By 9, we're in the upper 50s to around 60. And then the front will come through by about 4 a.m. It's out of the area. We'll start out with most readings in the 40s tomorrow morning. Still ahead. Okay, we'll talk about a possible record today in December. Short-lived warmth, and from tees today and shorts to coats. Again, timing out that front. Will.
All right, thank you, Rich. Well, President Joe Biden plans to send officials to Syria as soon as this week. It's after rebel groups overthrew the Syrian government over the weekend. He called this a historic moment for the Syrian people. The stunning and swift collapse of the Syrian regime happened over several days. Syrian dictator Bashar al-Assad fled the country to Moscow, Russia, a longtime ally to Assad. American officials also announced that airstrikes happened against several ISIS targets in Syria over the weekend. The White House is hoping for a peaceful transfer of power to a new Syrian government. However, the rebel groups now in control are associated with movements designated as terrorist groups by the U.S. On Sunday, President Biden said the U.S. is committed to helping the Syrian people.
It's a moment of historic opportunity for the long-suffering people of Syria to build a better future for their proud country. It's also a moment of risk and uncertainty. As we all turn to the question of what comes next, the United States will work with our partners and the stakeholders in Syria to help them seize an opportunity to manage the risks.
The Assad family ruled Syria for the past 50 years. President Biden also expressed optimism for getting journalist Austin Tice out of Syria. The family of the Houston native gathered yesterday in front of St. John's Church near the White House to pray and call for his safe return. Tice was abducted in Syria 12 years ago while reporting on the nation's conflict. According to the leader of the Syrian opposition, a commission will be established to find him and others who have disappeared under the Assad regime. Tice's whereabouts remain unknown, though, but his family said last week that they had a significant source that told them he was still alive. That's all according to the Washington Post. And in South Korea, the government there ordered an overseas travel ban on the president. He faces investigation on possible rebellion charges after briefly declaring martial law. It banned all political activity and censored the news media. Lawmakers in South Korea are pursuing impeachment. President-elect Donald Trump sat down with NBC's Kristen Welker this weekend in his first broadcast interview since winning the election. The topics included everything from immigration to the 2020 election and tariffs. Kristen Welker gives us a complete rundown of that interview.
Have you thought about your message? We began our conversation with President-elect Trump on the economy and his threat to impose tariffs on America's three biggest trading partners, Mexico, Canada, and China, which experts warn could lead to a surge in prices. Can you guarantee American families won't pay more?
I can't guarantee anything. I can't guarantee tomorrow. I'm a big believer in tariffs. I think tariffs are the most beautiful word. I think they're beautiful. It's going to make us rich.
The president-elect is standing by one of his key campaign promises, saying he has no choice but to deport everyone who is illegally in the United States. You've talked about prioritizing people who have criminal histories.
Correct.
But is it your plan to deport everyone who is here illegally over the next 4 years?
Well, I think you have to do it. And it's a very tough thing to do. But you have to have, you have rules, regulations, laws. They came in illegally.
The president-elect also vowed to end birthright citizenship, a right that's guaranteed by the 14th Amendment.
We're going to end that because it's ridiculous.
Mr. Trump did say he's open to finding a way to protect dreamers, those brought illegally to the U.S. as children and raised here.
I think we can work with the Democrats and work something out.
Asked about members of the January 6th committee, the president-elect argued they should be imprisoned without any evidence that they violated the law.
Honestly, they should go to jail.
So you think Liz Cheney should go to jail?
For what they did.
Everyone on the committee, you think?
I think everybody anybody that voted in favor.
Are you going to direct your FBI director and your attorney general to send them to jail?
No, not at all. I think that they'll have to look at that, but I'm going to focus on drill, baby, drill.
In a statement, Liz Cheney, the Republican vice chair of the January 6th committee, denounced Mr. Trump's threat as a, quote, assault on the rule of law and the foundations of our republic. The president also said he is looking to pardon people convicted for their actions on January 6th.
That was Kristen Welker reporting there. President-elect Trump will be sworn back into office on January 20th. The president-elect said yesterday he chose Alina Habba to be his counselor to the president. Habba worked as one of Trump's defense attorneys in the hush money case in New York. During the first Trump term, Kellyanne Conway served in that role. New York Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is looking to become the top Democrat on the House Oversight Committee. She officially launched her bid on Friday. In a letter to Democratic colleagues, Ocasio-Cortez wrote that she understood the gravity of leading the panel and added that it must focus on both congressional oversight and improving life for everyday Americans. The move puts her against Representative Jerry Connolly, who is currently the fourth most senior committee Democrat and announced recently that he was running for that top job as well. The Democratic Steering and Policy Committee is planning to make recommendations for committee leaders later this month. After that, all 215 House Democrats who will serve in the new Congress will vote on whom they want as their next committee leaders for the 119th Congress. Back here closer to home, the Downtown Austin Alliance says its downtown safety team is fully staffed and making a difference. As KXAN's Brianna Hollis reports, that alliance built the group to supplement safety coverage as Austin police fill roughly 300 vacancies.
The safety of the public, the businesses, so we are here to help everybody out.
Reggie Diggins is one of the 23 full-time Downtown Austin Alliance safety team members.
Wearing bright yellow shirts, they're trying to assist people on the street.
Bill Bryce, a vice president with the DAA, says the program launched in May with just a few officers and became fully staffed in October.
To increase the perceptions of safety downtown, but also to address low-level, non-emergency issues with non-emergency resources.
This includes making sure there's no illegal loitering, harassment, or open illicit drug use, issues that downtown businesses have repeatedly reported to the DAA and Austin Police. Bryce says the safety team has had more than 7,000 interactions with people about those problems, and of those instances, people have complied 90% of the time.
It is working. We've demonstrated that just by having people on the street asking people to change their behavior has been working effectively.
While these results are a plus side, the team was born, Bryce said, out of necessity.
Part of this was based on the fact that we've had such a decline in police resources and visible police presence on the street.
And when emergencies beyond the threshold of the safety officers happen, they do still have to call 911.
We do need more police out here because I've been assaulted, chased with pepper spray, chased with knives, and spat on as well out here.
The DAA says it currently does not plan to expand the safety team past its current 23 members in hopes of APD beefing up staff under the new leadership of Chief Lisa Davis and the new police contract. Brianna Hollis, KXAN News.
You heard Brianna say just a moment ago the Alliance does not plan to expand its safety team. However, it could reevaluate its plans next year if Austin Police do not hit their recruiting numbers. KXAN investigators keep digging into the mystery of a hanging on Backbone Creek. Out with a new podcast episode today. As we conclude this season on Death Inquest and a mysterious 1965 strangulation, our investigative team discusses the challenges of such a complex issue in a state the size of Texas. Listen and subscribe to KXAN's Catalyst podcast on KXAN.com or search for it wherever you get your favorite podcasts. Good Monday afternoon, everybody, and thanks for being with us here again on KXAN News at noon. We're showing you a live look from the Circuit of the Americas, and what a gorgeous day it is out there. Hope you're able to get out possibly and enjoy these very warm temperatures, but we're in for a bit of a ricochet with the temperatures coming up in just a little bit, and Rich will update us on that. Well, after years of restoration following a tragic fire, the iconic Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris hosted its first Mass since that 2019 fire yesterday. NBC's Jay Gray is in Paris with more.
Good morning from Paris, and lines stretching from Notre Dame Cathedral well before sunrise this morning after the excitement of what was a very special weekend. The reopening of this refurbished cathedral set off with celebrations and services both Saturday and Sunday. Let's start with Saturday. The church filled with dignitaries, heads of state from around the world as the ancient bells sounded once again, echoing through Paris. Music from the grand organ filling the restored cathedral, but perhaps the most moving sound during that service was the standing ovation that continued for several minutes, honoring the first responders, the construction teams, the artists, the architects, and craftsmen as they took their place inside the cathedral they helped to bring back to life. Sunday was the first Mass held inside the refurbished Notre Dame, a celebration of faith, commitment, and rebirth. The service, attended by French President Emmanuel Macron and around 2,500 invited guests, was led by the Archbishop of Paris, with nearly 170 bishops from France and around the world taking part in that celebration, which also included a blessing of the new bronze altar, something very special during that service. There was an evening Mass as well, and that's when the public for the first time was allowed inside to worship at Notre Dame. There will be 2 Masses a day over the next 8 days there. They're also today beginning to open the refurbished iconic church to visitors, and they expect in the next week to extend the hours of that visitation until 10:30 at night, with as many as 40,000 a day coming to see the new Notre Dame. That's the latest here in Paris. Jay Gray, NBC News.
What a cool assignment for him to be there for that moment when they're reopening that beautiful cathedral. It was so gorgeous.
And very emotional for many people who I'm sure who attended that. It's like,
absolutely,
it's finally back.
The tourist attraction is open again, and the visitors are welcome back into the doors. Yeah, it's amazing to see.
Let's go on our roof to see the view overlooking downtown. This is our West Shore Homes camera. And as I mentioned in the first hour of our show today, you can see the same shots that we are seeing here in our office. Just log on to KXAN.com, click on the Weather and Traffic tab, and go to webcams. And again, the West Shore Homes camera overlooking downtown. Well, Cedar is a little higher this afternoon than it was 24 hours ago. Molds are a little bit lower than they were 24 hours ago, and nothing else is showing up under the microscope, and that's your early afternoon pollen count. We've repositioned the front. I checked some of these reporting stations across the state, and I'm still finding a south wind out ahead of it. So that front north of Dallas will be through Dallas in about the next 2 hours and out of the Waco area by about 5 to 6 o'clock. Today, the record high is 83 degrees. That was set in 2019. 83 is what we're forecasting this afternoon under a sunny sky, and there are your temperatures. By 3 o'clock. We should be in that general range of upper 70s to low 80s. I don't think we'll have any mid 80s today. Then by 7 o'clock, we're in the 60s. The front will have already passed San Saba and Lampasas counties. It should be through the Austin area sometime between 11 o'clock tonight and 1 o'clock tomorrow morning. And then it is out of the area past Luling and Flatonia by about 4 o'clock on Tuesday morning. And then we are set up with some chill after some 80s today. Most all of us are going to be in the mid and upper 50s for our high temperatures on Tuesday afternoon. Then after a clear sky on Tuesday night into Wednesday morning and lower wind speeds by Wednesday morning, we find that several of our reporting stations will have a freeze. Mostly the upper 20s to low 30s in the hill country, the low to mid 30s along and east of I-35. There'll be several, especially from Milam County across Williamson and on into the hill country, where we will find the coldest air, but the wind chills will not be anywhere near what we would expect because the winds are going to be rather light. Then we are dry until Thursday night. Into Friday, we see a little bit of rain on Friday, a better chance of rain. Right now, we're only putting it at 20%. Same thing for Saturday during the afternoon especially. And we mentioned in the first hour, in case you missed it, that several of you will be going over it because Westlake is playing North Shore on Tuesday or Saturday afternoon at 2 o'clock. And so there'll be some rain around perhaps at the start of the game, and then the weather will be dry until Monday. Just a few hundredths up to a tenth of an inch with isolated numbers higher than that in that Friday to Monday time frame. 83 today, and then we say goodbye to that for a while. We'll be in the 50s tomorrow with strong winds during the afternoon, the 60s Wednesday, Thursday, and the low 70s Friday into the weekend.
Economists say they expect growth to slow in the housing market next year and predict volatility when it comes to mortgage rates. According to a report from Redfin, economists expect mortgage rates to average about 6.8%. However, if the economy slows even more, it could hover at a low 6% range. With potential tariffs, they say that the market could get more bumpy, upping the costs of homes. As for rent at a national level, the median asking rent price in the country is likely to stay flat at about $1,600 in October. Here in Austin, it's been the epicenter of multifamily construction. That means a lot of new supply is now available to the city's rental market, which brings down rental costs. The metro area's rent prices fell by almost 3% from a year ago. That's according to CoreLogic. HEB is looking to expand south of Austin into Buda. The company has eyes on a 21-acre landfill, but clearing that will come at a hefty price. So HEB would like some help from the city of Buda. The chain is requesting a planned development zoning to keep track of the property's issues. Building over a former landfill brings its own unique expenses and challenges. Those include digging down 20 feet to replace the soil. If HEB moves forward, construction would start in 2026. Looking in depth now, HEB just reopened its store on South Congress in Old Torf last week. The original store opened there in 1957. With all the recent attention for movies like Wicked that they're getting, it may come as a surprise to learn major movie studios are not making the money they once did. The Associated Press reports box office returns for 2024 are below where they were last year and far below the levels before the pandemic. Experts blame last year's writer's strike and movies that frankly bombed with audiences.
It was also a year where, we always have flops. There are always, unexpected things, but a lot of films had a lot going for them and then just didn't pan out at the box office.
Now, that does not mean every movie did poorly at the box office. For example, Disney's Inside Out 2 got more than $1 billion after it debuted back in June.
In-depth, investigative. This is KXAN News at Noon.
Starting tonight, families in the Bastrop Independent School District can weigh in on changes that will affect where their students go to school next year. The district is hosting town halls today and tomorrow, where it will have maps and take feedback on new attendance zone boundaries. KXAN's Mercedes Hernandez is joining us live here in studio with a look ahead to tonight's meeting. Mercedes, good to see you. Good afternoon.
Yes, good afternoon. We're clarifying that from earlier. Yes. I was confused on what time of day it was. It's the middle of the day.
It's a Monday feeling, right?
Exactly. I'm just getting used to it, getting used to the swing of things. But yeah, it's really those middle school families that will want to pay attention to those proposed changes tonight. Now, the district says that it's moving some of those students around because of some planned renovation projects. I spoke to Cassandra Balderas with the ISD. She says that no one is being cut out of the district with these proposals, just that existing areas are being redrawn. Now, the new zones being proposed would factor in a 9th elementary school campus and 2 additional middle schools. The district broke ground on that new elementary school back in October, but those new middle schools will come from 2 existing intermediate schools. And as those renovations happen, the students that currently attend those campuses will be split up among the district's existing middle school campuses. BISD says the big driver here is, of course, growth. Its student population is expected to more than double in the next 10 years. At a school board meeting just a few weeks ago, the district shared more about what they hope to accomplish with these new lines.
So our goal in creating these new boundaries was to balance our student population to the extent that we could, to minimize neighborhood disruption, and to, of course, factor in transportation routes and needs. So these new boundaries will take effect in the fall of 2025.
The district says after these town halls this week, these boundaries will go before the school board to be voted on by January 21st. Those town halls taking place tonight from 5:30 to 7:30 at the Cedar Creek Middle School cafeteria. That's at 125 Voss Parkway in Cedar Creek. And tomorrow, December the 10th, at the same time at Bastrop Middle School's cafeteria. That's at 725 Old Austin Highway in Bastrop.
First warning weather.
Mercedes, thank you for that update. We want to take a live look right now outside in downtown Austin, where there is very few clouds in the skies, maybe a few specks there, but I can't tell if that's maybe just some smudges on the camera near the Austonian. But we want to check in with meteorologist Rich Siegel.
Smudges.
And Rich, yeah, so you never know. You just really have to be careful with that camera out there.
There's smudges from the grackle that made its way to the camera yesterday.
Having some fun up there for sure. But the temperatures out there, that's what we want to talk about. It's very warm.
Yeah, that's right. You know, for most people today who get maybe to leave work early, this will be a t-shirts and shorts weather today, because temperatures already have made it into the 70s. Whatever was wrong with the Marble Falls temperature sensor has been fixed. We're up to 81 degrees in the Hill Country in Blanco, 76 at Marble Falls, 75 at Cherokee, and 73 in far western Gillespie County at Harper. We're in the 70s across most all of our metro communities. Not sure why San Marcos is still reporting 58, but there may be a problem there. 78 at Manchac right now, one of our highest temperatures in the middle of our viewing area. 80 out at Dripping Springs, 76 at Georgetown, and 73 up in Round Rock. And as we check out our eastern counties, 69 at Elgin, 67 at Lexington, and most everyone else in the 70s except at Round Top. And again, there's a problem with their sensor too, because I can guarantee you it's not 45. Wind gusts are already increasing. 25 at Craddock Field, at Burnett, 24 at Mason, San Saba, 23 at Fredericksburg and at Llano, and off to the east we're getting a southwest wind gust of 16 at the reporting station at Cameron. If you're hanging your lights today, it'll be the best day of the week to do it. Really, it won't be that bad. Temperatures by 2 o'clock will be in the mid and upper 70s to the upper 70s and low 80s in the 3 to 4 o'clock hour, and then once the sun goes down, temperatures will start to drop off into the 70s by 6 o'clock and the 60s by 7 o'clock. Still ahead, well, we'll talk about this coming up in our next segment. Will?
Thanks so much, Rich. Syrian rebel forces have overtaken the capital city of Damascus and toppled the Assad regime that ruled Syria for generations. Russian officials confirmed that President Bashar al-Assad resigned and fled the country. NBC's Raf Sanchez has the latest.
We're in the Israeli-controlled section of the Golan Heights, looking out over southern Syria. Damascus is just over the horizon that way. And 48 hours ago, Bashar al-Assad was in charge in the Syrian capital, as his family has been for more than 50 years. But today is a new day in Syria. It is a new day in the Middle East. Assad has fled to Moscow, where he has been granted asylum by Vladimir Putin, who was his longtime backer, but whose Russian military forces bogged down in Ukraine were not there for Assad in his moment of need. Today, it is a coalition of rebel groups that are in charge in Damascus. The largest of them is called Hayat Tahrir al-Sham. It is an Islamist group that has its origins in al-Qaeda, and it is still considered to be a terrorist organization by the United States. But this is a group that is going to great lengths to try to show the Syrian people and the world that it is moderated. It says that it will protect the rights of minority groups inside of Syria, Shias, Christians, Alawites. It says there will be no restrictions on the civil rights of women in this new Syrian government. President Biden says that the U.S. will judge these rebels by their actions, not by their words. And he says that this is a moment of historic opportunity, but also risk inside Syria. That is a calculation shared by the Israeli government, who over the weekend carried out airstrikes on chemical, biological weapons sites, as well as ballistic missile facilities inside of Syria, which once belonged to the Assad regime, but Israel now determined to make sure that they do not fall into the hands of terrorist groups. Raf Sanchez, NBC News, the Golan Heights.
Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin says the U.S. will provide nearly $1 billion more in long-term weapons support to Ukraine. This comes as the Biden administration rushes to spend all the congressionally approved money it has left. It's working to bolster Kyiv before President-elect Donald Trump takes office next month. White House officials question whether Trump will maintain military support to Ukraine while that country faces an intensified onslaught from Russia. That weapons support features more drones and munitions for the high-mobility artillery rocket systems. The U.S. provided Ukraine with more than $62 billion in military aid since Russia's invasion back in 2022. The U.S. Postal Service is hosting a job fair this week for people here in the Austin area. This will happen Wednesday, December 11th at the Workforce Solutions Capitol Area Building from 10 in the morning to 1 in the afternoon. It's looking for lead automotive technicians, maintenance mechanics, rural carriers, and city carrier assistants. Starting salary ranges from about $19 to $31 an hour. If you thought you saw a $100,000 vehicle hanging off of the side of a building in downtown Austin this weekend, you did indeed. It was part of a video shoot detailing how a one-of-a-kind Porsche 911 went from Japan to Central Texas. The director of the sports car seller, Kitted, says they brought the car to Austin because it felt like it was right at home here.
I drive around the streets here, nobody scowls at me. Everybody gives me thumbs up and laughs, and the thing looks like a Hot Wheels. So I love the welcome that I've gotten in Austin, and I feel like it deserves an Austin welcome, just as anybody else who's visiting our city does.